This is the true story of Danish photographer Daniel Ray, who spent over a year in captivity with Islamic militants. And no, it wasn't because he forgot to buy a return ticket. It all starts with a memory. Young Daniel is shining on the gymnastics platform. He performs an impressive trick but gets injured. That's how he says goodbye to his sports career. Now he needs to choose a new profession. In the capital, he decides to start small and remembers his hobby, photography. He goes to a job interview and is hired on the spot. They don't even have time to finish their coffee before they're flying to Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia and one of the most pirate-infested corners of the planet. In Somalia, Daniel suddenly realizes, this is his calling. Next stop, Syria. A place where you can win a Pulitzer Prize or get shot. Fierce battles are raging between the army, peacekeepers, and ISIS. Daniel is met by Aya, a local activist and guide to hotspots. They even have a driver and security. It's almost like a tour of Italy, only instead of pasta, there is destruction, gunfire, and concrete ruins. Everything is going well until a white minibus pulls up. Out pour not tourists, but grim-faced men with machine guns. They are taken prisoner, and a whole new chapter in their lives begins. The entrance to the building is guarded by armed children, another grim reminder of how war disfigures lives from an early age. Soon, a man in a balaclava appears, obviously the leader. At gunpoint, Daniel is taken away. He is blindfolded, put in another van, and driven off in an unknown direction. He is taken to an abandoned factory. He is accused of something he did not do. Allegedly, he is a CIA agent sent to gather intelligence for a subsequent airstrike. Daniel tries in vain to prove that he is just a former gymnast and photographer. His parents begin to worry when they do not hear from him. His mother, having received no news, turns to Arthur, a former military man who searches for people missing in conflict zones. Arthur is already looking for another missing person, American journalist James Foley, but takes on Daniel's case. He immediately warns that the information must not be leaked to the press. The terrorists are afraid of publicity. In such cases, it is easier for them to get rid of the hostage than to continue negotiations. At that moment, Daniel seizes the opportunity to remove the bars from the window and jump out. Second floor. He injures his leg again. Limping, he asks local residents for help. They let him into their home, feed him, and give him clothes. But it turns out to be a trap. They are buying time until his former kidnapper arrives. Meanwhile, Arthur searches for Aya, the woman who accompanied Daniel on his trip. She tells him what happened and gives him the name she heard during the kidnapping. This information becomes the first lead. The negotiator contacts the kidnappers, who demand $1 million for Daniel's release. They manage to lower the amount to $700,000, but even this sum is impossible for an ordinary family to raise. Meanwhile, Daniel is moved from one hideout to another to avoid possible surveillance. Eventually, he is taken to a place where other prisoners are being held. The conditions are inhumane. In the common cell are journalists from Europe and a Muslim named Alexei. At this time, Daniel's relatives do not know how to raise the necessary amount and fear that their son is dead. After a while, a video arrives. In it, Daniel answers a personal question. What color was the car he once sold to his father? Green. That's enough to confirm that it's really him. Daniel's father receives heartbreaking news. The terrorists, offended by the ransom amount, have increased their demands from $700,000 to €2 million. For an ordinary family, such a sum is completely unattainable. But no one gives up. Daniel's sister, Anita, organizes an anonymous fundraiser. One day, looking out the window, Daniel notices that new prisoners are being brought to the camp. Among them is James Foley, an American journalist. He has converted to Islam, but here, converting to a religion is not a protection, but a reason for suspicion. After being publicly beaten, Foley is thrown into a cell with the others. When he comes to, he begins to get to know his cellmates. These brief handshakes and glances are the only form of humanity in a world ruled by weapons. In Denmark, desperate attempts are being made to raise money, and bonds are forming between the prisoners in the cell. Daniel and Foley grow closer. Together with the others, they try to maintain their composure. Daniel organizes meditation exercises to at least slightly reduce their inner pain and fear. Hope appears unexpectedly. Arthur's assistant is taken to the building where the prisoners are being held. He is allowed to confirm that Daniel is alive. He records video evidence. Almost no one else has this opportunity. Alexei, a Muslim, has no one outside the cell who cares about his fate. Arthur's assistant recognizes his old school in this place. He is from here. This information becomes crucial. Arthur passes it on to the American Special Services. The CIA and LAP Special Forces begin preparations for the operation. 3 helicopters arrive. But the terrorists hear the noise. In a matter of minutes, they load the prisoners into a truck and drive away. The prisoners are taken to an abandoned oil refinery. Here they are dressed in orange jumpsuits, a symbolic punishment reminiscent of American prisons and the infamous executions in front of cameras. The psychological pressure intensifies. The next stop is the desert. Alexei is kneeling. The other prisoners are sitting on the edge and are forced to watch. One of the guards coolly shoots him. Not because he ran away. Not because he resisted. But because no one paid for him. The families receive a video warning that they only have a few days to raise the money. Daniel's family manages to raise 2/3 of the required amount, 10 million Danish kroner out of 15 million. But the remaining 5 million is still a huge sum. In desperation, his mother turns to her school friend's husband, an influential businessman, for help. He refuses. However, the next morning something unexpected happens. Transfers from an anonymous donor arrive in the account. They come in several parts, including a symbolic 46 kroner paid the day before for a cup of coffee. The money is collected. Arthur leaves for Turkey with the ransom. Meanwhile, the French hostages are ransomed by the state. They return home. The rest, including Foley, remain. Realizing that he has almost no time left, James Foley asks Daniel to remember his last words. Line by line, word by word, it is a message to his family that may be his last voice. Daniel memorizes every phrase. Then he is led away. Finally, he hears that he has been released. He is put in a car and driven to the Turkish border. They cross the border. He sees Arthur. Arthur takes Daniel to a hotel where his sister is waiting for him. On the table is food he hasn't seen in over a year. Warmth, safety, beer. He returns to a world that now seems foreign to him. In Denmark, he is reunited with his family. He is alive, but he is no longer the same person. His body is free, but his mind is still captive. Gradually, he gets used to normal life, but behind him lies a year that changed everything. He continues to follow the news from Syria. He watches and cannot forget. One evening, Arthur calls him. The American Secret Services have received a video recording. Presumably, it is of James Foley. Daniel is the last person to have seen him alive. He must confirm his identity. Instead of sending him the image, Arthur asks him to simply find the video on the internet. Daniel finds the clip. Foley is kneeling in an orange jumpsuit, somewhere on the sand. He reads a memorized text accusing the United States. Then, in the blink of an eye, the executioner standing next to him slits his throat. Despite the warning, Daniel watches until the end. He can't take it and falls to the floor, sobbing. In the finale, both fly to the United States. At James Foley's memorial service, Daniel reads the letter he memorized on his last night in captivity. The film ends with the credits. 13 months. That is how long Daniel spent in captivity. He is the last of the 8. The other 7 were executed. It is estimated that more than 400,000 people have died since the start of the civil war in Syria. Among them are at least 100 journalists. 12 million have become refugees. And Daniel Ray continues to take photographs. He continues to travel the world. And now, each of his photographs is more than just an image. If you were moved by this story, please support our channel with a like and a subscribe. This will help us tell this important story to even more people.